The Justin Robert Young podcast is brought to you, as always, by your fine friends at The Contender, the game of presidential debate. Go ahead and get on into it. TheContender.us. You only got a few more days before you guys are able to, or no longer able to buy the game at the low price of $17.76. It's only going to be available till the end of the year, and we are rapidly coming up to the end of the year. So head on over there to thecontender.us. We also got all of our big holiday bundles, including the $40 holiday special, the mini expansion mega pack, tuck boxes, and I'm happy to tell you that as of right now, everything is shipping the day that it is ordered. So head on over to thecontender.us and buy patreon.com/JuRY. Support the show like so many others do. We are right next to sniffing 500 patrons. 500 patrons. Getting close to 800 an episode. Oh my God, Becky, look at her butt. That is a huge milestone. I know we've had a bunch of people that were mega donors that have recently scaled back. So the fact that we are back sniffing around 800 net, man, that is an absolute joy. Head on over there, patreon.com/JuRY. And by stickers or DIAF, go ahead and get the new JuRY holiday bundles right now. 8 stickers, 8 of them, 10 stickers, 8 of them classic, 2 of them new. In addition to that, you get an original Ruin'em wine label and 2 JuRY buys you a drink tokens. Do not be left in the cold the next time we do a live show and everybody else is ringing me out for cash and I'm buying them drinks by not buying the holiday pack. That's only got a few days left to it too. Stickers or DIAF. Enough of talking about how we do the show. What do you say we just go ahead, knuckle up, and do the damn thing?
Said, I know it's ugly, and I said, girl, ugly ain't the half, look at you. Well, you got blue teeth, and you only got 2 teeth, but I kinda like to see you smile. And it appears that over the years, you've turned into a big old steaming pile, and she said, yeah, I know I ain't no supermodel. I said, you ain't a hand model, baby. But that's fine, 'cause you're pretty ugly by most people's standards, but you're alright by mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Justin Robert Young podcast. My name is indeed Justin Robert Young. Man, it ain't just a clever name. Oh! This episode is brought to you by Shouldn't. That's the lesson today. Because I got 2 things that are on my mind, both of which I should either not talk about at all, or I need to be very, 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 very careful. One of them I'm just going to talk about. The other I'm going to capitulate. Let's start with the most recent. I want to give a big shout out to the Kinda Funny Videos guys. On the Game Over Greggy show, which I think has been, they stagger the releases. They like shoot the whole thing, and then they cut it up by topic and release it topic by topic. So the Game Over Greggy show featured The Contender, the game of presidential debate. Many of you who are listening to this show know that this has been a huge project of mine over the last year and a half, and it was something that has played a huge part of my life. And I will say this: even as far back as when we were playtesting the Contender at Nerdtacular a year and a half ago, Ashley will tell you, I can't watch people playing the game. I hate watching people play the game because I'm afraid they're not going to like it. And it's one thing if it's just your ego. Because people can say that I suck all the time, and they do. People say I blow constantly. That's fine. You can say you don't like my show, and I do enough shows where I'm like, all right, cool, man. That's fine. The internet is an amazing, beautiful place where you can find exactly what you want, and I am certainly not so much of a blowhard egotist to believe that I am everybody's cup of tea. But with the Contender, it's something different. Not only am I doing something that is tied into other people, but also I have invested a lot of money and time and effort into it, right? So I'm not good with feedback at all. I distrust positive feedback. I amplify negative feedback. So I was very excited to see that the kind of funny videos guys, specifically Tim Geddes and I can't forget his name, Colin and Greg, were gonna play the game. I saw a little thing on their Twitter. People were replying me. Very excited about that. And then immediately after I started watching, I regretted it. I immediately regretted it. Not because of anything that was happening on the show. It was just I just hate watching people play the game because I have self-conscious feelings about how we designed it. I have self-conscious feelings about how people react to it, how easy it is to play, how not easy it is to play. So there's just a lot. I am in a glass case of emotion. So I'm watching them play the game, and it seems like, A, they got the rules pretty quickly, and B, that they were having a good time. They were laughing. They played like 4 or 5 rounds of the game, and they had a good time. They were laughing a lot. And they seemed to kind of go on the track of how the game tends to work. There's usually like 2 or 3 rounds where people are just kind of getting the sense of it. And then as soon as they realize that you know, really the back and forth of the game is based on them playing stuff in context, it becomes funnier. There's a lot of laughs to be had. And I'm feeling pretty good about it because if I am correct, the video featuring them playing the game will go live either tomorrow or the day after. Probably the same day that you are listening or viewing this, unless you are viewing this live. And they, R&R says, but JuRY, how did you feel about the playthrough of the beer and board games guys from before? I didn't even watch that one, to be honest with you. I didn't watch it. Because I saw them doing it live, and they were playing it like Cards Against Humanity, and I was just like I'm very grateful for them playing the game. I hope they say good things about it, but I can't watch it. I just can't. Because to watch it is to admit that I poorly designed the game. That John and I poorly designed the game because they're not playing it in the way that we intended it to be played, which means we did not spell out the instructions well enough, and I just felt bad about it, right? So, these guys seem to be having a really good time. And they go and they play through a couple rounds, and there's laughter. It's a fun thing. They don't mention that all the quotes are real quotes at the bottom. That's a nice little selling point, especially for the political nerds. But at the end, this is their right. This is not me being a butthurt baby. No, all right, here. Let me classify this. This is me being a butthurt baby, right? But I am drawing a fence around my feelings, and I am saying that this is totally on me. This is not on them, because they have a responsibility to be honest about their emotions and in the moment with their audience. And they don't even say anything unkind about the game. They just say the game's a little half-baked and that, it certainly is among the trend of social card games. And, that there wasn't much depth to it. And I would agree with the third part the most, because there's not a tremendous amount of depth to the game. I mean, really, the depth to the game is understanding that all of this stuff is based on real quotes. But man, does it just put me in a weird mood. Like, and again, let me just be clear here. This is not about, I am grateful that they took that game out in front of their gigantic, massive, colossal, huge audience. And we will see whether or not it translates into sales. I hope it does. Maybe it won't. But man, as a creator, like, geez. This is probably why I should never have kids. This is probably why I should not procreate. If I can't handle putting my card game out into the world, the last thing I need to do is have my progeny running around and have other people saying weird things about it. I'll just do this. I'll just come on here. Imagine this show. If I ever have a kid, I'm going to be on this show talking mad crap about like a 5-year-old who called my 5-year-old a booger head. I'm sensitive. I'm a thin-skinned grape. I'm very sensitive. So that's the first thing. And I probably shouldn't say anything other than, hey, here, see, if I was smart, here's what I would do. I would just begin the show and say, hey, everybody, make sure you go ahead and check out Kind of Funny Videos, a Game Over Greggy show tomorrow or the next day, and you'll see them play the Contender. And everybody would think, oh, my God, he's seen the video. They play the Contender. It looks great. You can see it now if you're on Game Over Greggy or the Kind of Funny Videos Patreon, which I became a patron. Yeah, Bad Weave points it out. I'm triggered. I'm easily triggered. I'm a delicate flower, man. I'm an orchid. I only bloom in the right conditions. Knots is already actually my fake kid. To be fair, there was a booger on his head at the time. Get out of my face with that, Knots. Get out of my face. I'm not here for your nonsense. Now here's the other thing that I have to capitulate on. Because, man, this show has been defined by people sharing their stories and me sharing my own. And these stories can be wild. They can be heartbreaking. They can be personal. They can be tragic. They can be comedic. And I will tell you this, that this Sunday morning, I bore witness to a story that I was involved in a story that's Hall of Fame. I'm just going to say it now. Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame. It's got everything. Stakes, a payoff. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good that I went to Twitter and said, I got a story to tell on the next JuRY. And I can't tell you it. Because it's too good. And here's the problem, man, is you can only get so... As soon as I become somebody that makes my living doing podcasting, and people know that I tell embarrassing stories on the podcast, I can't tell the same amount of embarrassing stories. Because if the embarrassing story happens and somebody who is involved in it doesn't say anything, and then I go out and I tell the story on the internet, and at some point it gets back to them that I told the story, I can say, man, that's my living. That's my living. That's what I do. I take this and I spin it into this. But when everybody knows that's what you do, Now you all of a sudden get friends, dear friends, people that you care about telling you you can't tell the story. You can't tell the story. Oh, so good. It's so good. Here's another reason to come to a live show, because I'll tell you live. I'm just kidding. I won't. If anyone who was involved in the story is listening, I won't tell people live. Just kidding. I won't. I totally won't. But I will tell you the story that happened after that story. So just understand that in the aftermath of that story, I am in the Roadway Inn in Coral Gables. As you might imagine, the Roadway Inn in Coral Gables is not exactly a 5-star establishment. It's a bit of a ramshackle joint, if you ask me. Coral Gables is, like many places in Miami, a fantastic comparison of the best and worst of Miami. You've got esteemed private school with its famous football program, the University of Miami in Coral Gables. You got a bunch of random, fairly middle of the road to low income houses, and you have where I was the previous evening, the Biltmore, a 5-star hotel that has had many famous movies and TV shows shot there, including Bad Boys. So I'm at the Roadway. This amazing story I can't tell happens right before. But it leaves me effectively kicked out of my hotel room wearing the tuxedo that I had put on the evening before. I was part of the wedding. I was one of the groomsmen. I have this gorgeous tuxedo on, right? Looks fantastic. Silver vest, form-fit jacket. Man, I'm looking like $1 million. Or at least I was the night before when I was all made up for it. Now, I look like some bizarre urban fantasy protagonist as I troll the Roadway Inn looking for the missing suit bags. Because somewhere in Coral Gables is a suit bag to Men's Warehouse that I have to return the suit I am wearing to Men's Warehouse in the bag. I also have to get my clothes that I put in the bag when I changed into my tuxedo. I have zero idea where these suit bags are. But using my detective brain, I know for a fact that there is only one of two places they could be. The Roadway somewhere or the Biltmore. So I call my friend Anthony. He was the groom in the wedding. His father was taking care of the suit bags. I call him up and I'm like, hey, I got to come get my suit bag. He's like, fantastic. I'm going to call my dad. I'll meet you in the lobby of the Biltmore. Bing, bang, boom. Get in an Uber, head on down to the Biltmore. Get a call from Anthony. He says, hey, somebody came into my dad's room last night, grabbed the suit bags, left. Suit bags ain't here, dog. Cool. So I got to hang up with Anthony and start talking to the Uber driver, who, by the way, is in Coral Gables and therefore has a very, 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 very limited motivating interest to learn English. Because most of the people getting Ubers in Coral Gables either don't want to talk to the Uber driver or speak Spanish. So I'm trying to navigate this guy to go back to where we came from. All right. Finally figured that out. I've now narrowed it down. It's somewhere in the Roadway. We had, as a group of people who were all staying there, 4 different rooms. Now, you would assume, as I did, that the suit bags were in one of those 4 rooms. And that they wouldn't really be that hard to find as soon as we just ran down the phone tree of everybody that was staying there. because somebody would be in the room and would be able to say groggily a Sunday morning after a Saturday wedding that was just an all-and-out bacchanalia, yeah, the bags are here. So I start calling. First guy, yeah, I don't know where they are. Okay. Second guy, no answer. Third guy, no answer. I have now called all the other rooms, or at least tried to get in touch with people. It's at that point that the facts start coming in. I go back and I check the group chat. And I see my buddy, Andrew, says, hey, I left the bags in room 329, Mike's room. Now, because all of my friends are children of the early 80s, when apparently everybody was only able to name their kids one of 5 names, our group boasts a healthy stat of 2 Justins and 4 Mikes. So it doesn't exactly narrow things down all that much. I called back one of the Mikes I already called and said, hey, for real, I need to know, do you got these suits? He's like, all right, let me look around again. No, I checked under the bed, checked in the closet. No suits. Fuck. Again, I want to let you know that I am indeed sleuthing through the roadway in with my hair all sticking up, all of last night's product doing its best to give me this Yahoo Serious mane of hair sticking every which way but loose. It's at that point that we make a very, 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 very important discovery. Number 1, we find another Mike. That Mike had been out all night and had no idea where the suits were. So useless as he is, he eliminates a Mike. It leaves, functionally, only one Mike who we know never came back to the hotel. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. So now there's the possibility that the suit bags might not be in the roadway at all. So we make one last executive decision. I rustle up the other Justin, whose girlfriend had booked all the rooms for us. I say, hey, listen, explain everything. There's only one last shot that these suit bags are here at this roadway. Just one. And we're going to put our Justin powers together to find it. I need you to go over there to the front desk. Since your name, I guess, is also on the reservation, I need you to get the keys for room 329. Now, we know that nobody went into room 329 the previous evening. We go ahead, checking our own little private version of Al Capone's vault. Beep, beep. Open the door. What do we find? Is it another Mike? Is it some random stranger? Is it a family of raccoons? No! It is indeed our suit bags that have mysteriously and seemingly, through only magical means, teleported through the door of room 329. We solved the case. We followed the clues, gumshoes, and we got our treasure. But the question remained, how did they get behind that door? And why didn't the person that put them behind that door go to sleep there? Well, apparently here was the answer. My buddy Andrew, who put it in the group chat that the suit bags were indeed behind that door, did indeed take them from the Biltmore to that room with a mic. One of the mics apparently was blacked out when he helped Andrew get the suit bags into room 329. However, the Mike that was supposed to sleep there decided to take a massively expensive surge price Uber from Dade County to Broward, which is about 30 minutes to 40 minutes north, to go to sleep in his own bed after he became flummoxed with the night. So we had one Mike missing, one Mike blacked out, one Andrew who actually did everything that he said he did and dropped them off indeed in the room with a mic for a mic, and yet there it was, taunting everybody behind a door that nobody had a key for on Sunday morning. And that is a hell of a story, but about 1/10 of the one that I cannot and will never be able to tell you. You can go ahead and email us, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. First email comes in from Trey. Says, have you thought about interviewing Mike TV? If you're wanting to do more interviews, he'd be a great candidate. He's a Diamond Club friend who is always just, I've always just saw as the guy who writes funny songs, but after watching a bit of his streams, I see there's a lot more to him that would be cool to cover. Thanks for all the entertainment. That's a great idea, Trey. I would love to actually sit down and talk to Mike. I mean, Mike's got a hell of a story, dude. Mike's also been around forever. Like, and I don't mean that he's old. I just mean that he's just been involved in so much stuff. Like, he is an organizer. I mean, that dude has a documentary made about a scene that he was a major part of. I don't have a documentary about a scene I was a major part of. He does. He's a hell of a guy. I should definitely sit down and talk to him. This one comes in from, let's see. Which one should we do? Here we go. Crunchy writes, my mom's side of the family is mostly made up of farmers and rednecks, and they reproduce like the Amish, so there's a ton of them. My dad's side of the family is essentially white trash. I don't know a nicer word for it, but you know. The type that you would expect to see with Confederate flags on the back of their loud, obnoxious trucks. Myself and one other cousin, who was brought into the family by marriage, were the only two who weren't Trump supporters. Our family told us that we were going to build a wall around family gatherings so we couldn't get in, and the Mexicans were going to pay for it. We always lived close enough to my mom's side of the family in a tiny town of Cornfield, Ohio. It's a real place, I promise. Hachi machi, I add editorially. Although I'm sure the racism was there before this past election, no one ever really spoke of it because, well, other races are about as real as unicorns in that area. Imagine the culture shock they had when they came to visit me in an actual city, let alone one in Texas. They don't even English all that well without having to mix in a few Spanish words. I may have made a snarky comment once my dad started talking about the jalapenos. He went on a tirade about how we're in America, so we should be able to speak English, instead of catering to the immigrants by speaking their language about how they should learn how to speak English. Like, jalapeno is literally their word. Thank God I learned to pronounce it from the Angry Beavers cartoon and not them. So anyway, that's what happens when a casual racist sees a Mexican for the first time. The more you know. She goes on. Secondly, Jessica's email about double-edged sword and being a woman sent my scatterbrained mind in a million different directions. To start just knowing that I could relate. In my teenage years, a bunch of friends tried to convince me that hooking up with one random person once a year, just to be able to get laid annually, wouldn't make anyone think I was a slut. I found that out to be beyond untrue. Meanwhile, the girls that are with a different guy every other week are fine because they're dating that person. After all the twists and turns and thinking about asinine stereotypes surrounding males and females, I ended up with two important questions. Number one, women don't typically masturbate without toys. Why don't men? There's so many things that sound so much better than hands. Okay. And two, you know how sometimes you have to sneeze and pause your conversation to prepare for an oncoming sternutation? Sometimes going so far as to clarify that you have to sneeze, just to have it end up being a false alarm. Have any of the guys that give warnings toward the end of a blowjob ever had the same situation? Well, I'll tell you what, Crunchy, you came to the right podcast. There are two questions from the Crunch. If anybody wants to answer, it is Justin Robert Young at gmail.com. Again, Justin Robert Young at gmail.com. Put JuRY in the subject line. Dalton writes in, hey, I just listened to the Hard R episode, and your stint in Northeast racism has me cracking the F up. I haven't laughed that hard in a while. Having grown up in East Boston being white, but being in a Spanish ghetto, I'm surrounded by racism, especially from Italians. I'd say the quote-unquote North End, as we call it, is probably one of the most racist parts of New England. I always found that the racism doesn't exist in the North thing totally effing retarded. My mother, of all people, the hilliest of all the hill dogs, spouts things that she would have no reservations about pooping on Hispanic immigrants. I don't blame her feeling the way she does. East Boston was once all or mostly Italian, a.k.a. white, and is now unrecognizable from her childhood. But things change with time. Here's the funny thing about Italians being racist. Is that, like, it really wasn't that long ago when Italians were the Italians and Irish were the immigrant class to be discriminated against. Like, that really wasn't that far. Like, that was very, very close. At some points, there were just too goddamn many of the Italians and the Irish, and so they just kind of got absorbed into the whites. Or at least they started believing they were whites. Because I'll tell you this, there's some waspy folks out there who still have a kind of a problem with the Italians and the Irish. It just so happens that the Italians and the Irish wind up taking over popular culture. So in your face, waspy McWasperton. Scale writes, Mr. Robert Young, this email's too long, so there's a TLDR at the end, and I'm just going to read that. The mouth-breathing, R-dropping chucklehead in this article is a racist, but Donald Trump isn't. Trump is just an asshole. They are, however, both Muppets. All right, maybe I'll read this one in full in the next episode. Chris Nels writes about his casual racism story. At work, I went to a break room to turn on Univision, and another coworker comes in and looks at the TV with a disgusted look. For the whole 15 minutes we were on break, you can just hear him sigh loudly and grunting, and then ask if I understand any of it, to which I replied, no habla inglés. He went to a manager and claimed I was harassing him. Man, who doesn't dig some out-of-context Univision here and again, man? Do you see this kind of stuff they do on Univision? Come on, man. You need to get on that. Telemundo, Univision, that's a spot. Someone needs to get some Sabado Gigante in their life. Alyssa writes about being friend-zoned. I want to preface this by saying that I know parts of it are going to make me sound like a bitch, but know that I always have the best intentions, and my recollection now, while it may be harsh, is as honest as I can be. I'm 20 years old, and I wanted to write about being in the friend zone from a lady's perspective, knowing that your audience is predominantly male. When I was in high school, all my friends were nerd. Here, you want to know? I'm actually curious. If you are a lady and you listen to the JuRY show and you're on Twitter, just say, I'm a lady, I listen to the JuRY show. I just kind of want to know. I want to know how many ladies listen to this show. All my friends were nerd guys, mostly because I had male friends growing up. When you reach a certain age, that means you're a slut, and girls don't want to be friends with sluts unless those sluts are also exciting. I spent my lunches hanging out with the band, choir, theater kids, and we'd sit on the floor in the theater building. We'd play magic and sometimes do actual magic tricks. Or the theater kids would run lines with the rest of us, and it would always be fun. At the time, I was a varsity dance team member doing technical theater, enrolled in a bunch of hard classes because being smart was ultimately how I defined myself, and driving back and forth between the high school and the local community college for extra classes. The thing about being the only girl in a male group, one that doesn't pretend to be dumb, who's interested in video games, and can have intelligent conversations about Star Wars, and was always nice to everybody, meant that friends would catch feelings. I tried my best to avoid that in the first place. I was never alone with boys I wasn't tutoring, and even then, alone, quote-unquote, meant in school. And I never responded to text messages after dark or too frequently. That being said, here's why unrequited feelings suck, and not just for the guys involved. There's no worse feeling than noticing how your friend is looking at you and knowing that they don't want to be friends anymore. Suddenly, they're sitting a little closer to you, paying more attention to what you're saying, and you know that because they have it in their head that they want to have the sex with you. If they can't, They won't want to be friends anymore. And anyway this ends, you're the bad guy. There are a few ways to try and deal with this, none of which I've been successful with. Number 1, you can try to distance yourself as soon as you notice it. This rarely works and tends to backfire. Suddenly you have the equivalent of a puppy dog following you around, feeling neglected, wondering what they did wrong. They'll start degrading themselves, feeling as if they aren't good enough. It'll be sad and pathetic, and you're the bad guy. They will have feelings and hurt written all over their face, and while they yearn for a future, you will yearn for the past. 2, you didn't notice in time. They will confront you angrily about caring about you. That friendship just isn't enough. They will be angry and sad, and it will hurt both of you. And when they leave, they will blame you. This friendship is completely beyond salvaging unless they get a girlfriend, and she will not want you around. Number 3, you can be honest with them. Try to be firm and respectful. Let them know that you're not interested in dating. That all your quote-unquote free time is spent at extracurriculars or doing homework for one of your AP/dual credit classes. And you don't want a relationship with anyone. You just want to enjoy high school surrounded by friends. They'll bitch to your friends about the friend zone, and again, you're the bad guy. Now, she's got another story in here about who she actually wound up dating, but I think that is invaluable advice and context to what is otherwise a fairly open and shut case for the dudes in the audience. You just think that the cold, mean, bitchy lady is like, oh, I don't value you. I hate good guys. And here's all I'll say to Alyssa's point, and this has always been my advice. I had to be hard learned, by the way, but it's my advice. Because I was far more likely to be the guy who gets all bitchy and butthurt in that scenario. Is what you need to do, if you were the guy in that scenario, and Alyssa is dealing with that, is you need to understand that, like, that projected, that, like, sad nerd puppy dog boy who just wants to be validated by a lady, not attractive to anybody. Not attractive to anybody. What if you want to get with somebody, you need to be actively and independently demonstrating your worth. You need to be having fun. You need to be a destination. Nobody goes on a vacation and says, oh, finally, here's a place where I can do homework. They want to go on a journey themselves. Do fun stuff. Organize fun things. Be a fun person. Be an exciting person. Be somebody for whom shows dynamic emotions, not just a singular a death spiral of, if you don't like me right now, I will hate you forever. That is not only unattractive, it is highly unsuccessful if what you want is to date that person. Jason writes, listening to the latest episode of JuRY and that casual racist arse is making my head burst. That poor girl. How the F do you go from being with somebody and doing the do to being such a prick? 3 years. How did she put up with that shite? I don't mind me a bottle of South African Shiraz will take me wandering. I'm not anti-African country. Maybe not the best choice of one. But have you tried Kenyan wine? Oh, and looking up your email showed me that you were born in 1983, which makes me feel so old. He signs Jason, who was born in 1969. Yeah, 69. I don't really quite know what the South African Shiraz thing. I don't know if that was a reference that I made in that episode. But, Jason, hopefully you picked up the idea that I think that dude was racist when they were dating. I kind of feel like she just sort of was avoiding that uncomfortable truth, an inconvenient truth, if you will. Karmakin writes, Glenn from Canada here. I have one thing I find rarely to do with you, which is to disagree strongly I, over the last few months, have met quite a few of these quote-unquote new converts to racist beliefs. And I don't think that they were often particularly racist before that. The people I know who do commonly use racist language, quite frankly, in my experience, haven't even moved that much. The problem is that the new converts, who, as the conventional wisdom goes, tend to be particularly dogged in their advocacy. As someone who is a general supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement, or specifically the Project Zero policy recommendations, quite frankly, there's a lot of poop that comes from that culture that I think pushes people into an ultra-reflexive racist stance. The idea that white people should just live with the crime against them, for example, is something I've seen brought up far too often. Not that I think that people should blame racial minorities or women or whatever for these stark culture war stances. No, I think that's stupid and incorrect. I'll put the blame on where I've always put the blame, on the self-aggrandizing culture of trustafarians. The culture's ability to self-radicalize due to not having any skin in the game, due to their inherited wealth and social status, has always astonished me. And quite frankly, their ideas seem to be getting more and more traction, and that's something that troubles me. Love the shows, all of them. Have a great day. Well, I mean, I don't really see where you necessarily disagree with me, except for the fact that I generally don't believe that Trump caused a bunch of racism. I think a bunch of racists sort of just found a new way that they could say they were racist. But other than that, I think that's I don't know. I'll have to read it a couple more times, but it seems like your point is certainly well taken. All right, we got one more. All right, here we go. One more from Trench. Hey, Justin, just got done with a hard R episode of the JuRY Show, and you couldn't be more on point with the casual and not so casual racism when it comes to the Northeast. I grew up in white people rich town not far from Atlantic City. In the local news, you couldn't go a year without hearing about a Jewish cemetery being vandalized. Jesus, what is this? Poland? There was a town called Millville that was often the site of a number of Klan rallies. Not only did many of my friends do the double shoulder look before telling a racist joke, but I was personally called an Enner lover when I tried to present an opposing viewpoint. When I left Jersey, I moved to Philly. I lived in a neighborhood that was founded by Irish and Polish immigrants. During that time, I dated a woman who was South African who could pass as black. When we walked down the street in my neighborhood, it was like something out of a movie where you could literally hear a record scratch after we walked by. Eventually, I moved to North Carolina, where I was prepared to see cross burnings as far as the eye could see. But I was pleasantly surprised with what I found. In the 20 years that I've lived there, I saw an infinitesimal amount of racially motivated actions as compared to New Jersey and the Northeast. While I did see the occasional Confederate flag in North Carolina, I probably saw tenfold more of them in New Jersey. That's something that I found surprising. I add editorially. I think the problem is that the most casual racists just can't understand how minorities have struggled in this country. While I wasn't exactly a Klan member, I used to have issues with things like affirmative action and complaints of racial profiling committed by the police. That was until I worked at an office in North Carolina where I was the only white person working in the trenches. Rather than spout off my Jersey white boy opinions, I sat and listened and respectfully asked questions when there was a point that I couldn't quite grasp. While not exactly an expert on race relations, I do now have a better understanding of what races have had to endure in this country. Unfortunately, not everyone is as willing to let go of their biases as I once was. Thanks for being a voice of reason in a climate that is definitely lacking in it. All right. Hey, guys, I'm sorry we have a bit of a shorter episode here this week. We're going to top out around like 45 minutes. I will recommend for you guys SoundCloud. My SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/JustinRobertYoung. You can get new episodes of 1-900 Wrestling with me and Willie Dills. New episodes of what I think we're going to call Brett and Justin Work From Home. A new show with me and Brett Rounsaville. So there is plenty of stuff that you have not heard if you want more of me. This was one of those like travel issues where I had to fit this one in. But we are ready for the pre-show for Night Attack, so I got to clear the hell out of here. Until next time, my name is Justin Robert Young, wishing you, everybody watching and listening, a good evening, and reminding you to please
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.